So today we're going to finish modifying this mouse with USB-C. I promise this is a mouse. It isn't a lot of pieces. It's a Logitech mouse, so of course it's going to be. So the long story short, or the short story long of this mouse is that I received it a few months ago with the intent of modifying it with a custom USB-C PCB. So I designed two boards. The first one was bad. The second one fit, but it had a few issues to it that I don't feel comfortable releasing for others to buy without me refining it. And I don't have it in me to make a third one for a while, if not forever, because I'm losing motivation every day to make videos, as you can tell. So what I'm going to do for this is I'm going to modify it with USB-C the weird way, where I just put a USB-C port on the board and run a bunch of wires to make it work. Something I wouldn't offer for everyone, but for this person, they've been patiently waiting for a USB-C mouse, and this is the closest thing I can give them without finishing the PCB that I don't really want to finish designing right now. So first in foreskin, we have to remove the old micro USB port. I'm just going to load it up with flux and hit it with some hot air, and it should lift right up. This is a one-take voiceover. I don't care about pauses and stuff, so as long as I cover most of it, we're good. We're just going to wick up all that old solder, get rid of it. Now, the replacement USB-C port isn't going to fit this PCB, obviously, so I have to modify what I can to make it fit, such as the anchors on the USB-C housing, and now I have to remove all of the pads and some of the anchor pads on the PCB itself. The reason why I'm doing this is because if I don't, the pins that don't go to those pads on the USB-C port have a likelihood of touching them, causing something to happen that shouldn't. So it's just easier to remove them. It feels very wrong doing this, but I'm just cutting them with a scalpel and then lifting them up and pulling them away. And now we could just plop that USB-C port in place. Only two of the anchor pads line up to the anchors on the PCB, so I'm just going to solder them, and I'll address the other two later with some jumper wire or something. First thing I have to route is the ground wires for this USB-C port. Since it's a top and bottom plug, I have to make sure both USB-C pins are connected, so both grounds, both positive voltages, and both CC pins. So what I'm doing here is I'm just making the ground connection on the USB-C housing to kind of clear up some space on the PCB. I'm just soldering it to the housing and then to the ground pins on the USB-C port. And then I'm going to run a small wire from the casing of the USB-C port to a ground pin on the PCB. Just like that. And same thing for the positive rail. So I have to make these two connections touch and then touch to this PCB spot that I'm scraping off here, which is our power input. So we're just soldering this little weird wire to both pins and then to the PCB itself. So now we have our positive connection jumped for top and bottom to the input on the PCB. And for the fun part, we have to add two 5.1K resistors to the CC1 and CC2 pins of this USB-C port. This tells smart chargers such as PD chargers to send 5 volts to the device, so these CC pins have to be pulled low to ground with a 5.1K resistor to enable that communication. You could get away with some dumb USB-C chargers, but in my last video you saw that I'm not a fan of those. Anyways, we're just soldering those in place and then soldering a ground wire from the previous ground point across the other two sides of those resistors to tie them to ground. And for the anchor pads, I'm just going to jump the anchors that won't fit with some bus wire to the anchors that were on the PCB. So it's been a while since I've messed around with the layout of this mouse, but I think I have it together for the most part. I know Logitech is weird with their mice. A lot of boards have to be connected for anything to work, so I just went ahead and plugged in everything that seemed important except for the haptic feedback thing on the scroll wheel. I think it's a little motor. I don't think it's going to care about that. So we're going to plug it in. Well, first let's see if it works. Okay, so we got green lights there. I don't know if you can see those. So now let's plug it in and see if it charges. So So I'm using this PD charger, so it should ask for 5 volts, and it should charge if everything went according to plan. And it is. It's very hard to see that, but there you go, you got the charging LEDs. So this works. I'm just realizing now that that USB-C port is at an angle. I might fix that, I might not care. Let's see. I don't think I care. We'll see how it looks on the inside of the shell. If it doesn't look too obvious, I won't care, but if it looks bad, I'll swap it. And that leads me to the next point of this mod. That is modifying the shell to fit the USB-C port now instead of the micro USB port. So about 17 business days later, this mouse is back together. I had to take it apart a few times and put it back together for a few other reasons, but it should be good now. So let's get a look at that USB-C port. It doesn't look too bad, looks a little choppy, but it works. So we're going to plug in the USB-C cable. Got those power lights. Battery is charging. I'm just going to flip it over and test the other side as well. And now it is USB-C rechargeable, but does the mouse work? Let's find out, he said unenthusiastically. Turns on. Okay, so I have the mouse paired to my phone, I have CPS open, and I'm going to try to fit this all in one frame. So the scroll function works, the left click works. Let's go back down here. Left click, right click, scroll click. This might be a DPI button. It's not a DPI button. Something's clicking when I push it. Oh. A scroll wheel. Oh, that haptic, that motor that I thought was a haptic feedback actually is stopping and freeing up the scroll wheel. So it free spins. And then if you want to stop it from free spinning, you engage it and then it clicks, breaking that freewheel spin, and this probably just turns the free spin on and off. That is so cool. I didn't know that was a thing. That is really sick. Okay, so back to the mouse itself. Yeah, everything works. I think that's all. I know we have buttons on the side here. Those work. Cool. So this mouse is USB-C rechargeable. It's very old and it will see more use because of this mod. That's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and this might be the last time I ever make a video. So see you maybe